It's a common question for people to ask, why did Moe place the club behind the ball a few inches? So let's talk about why Moe did that and how it can help your swing become more efficient and you could become a better ball striker.
Now 7-iron.
7-iron. You always put that club back behind the ball, don't you, Moe?
Oh yes, way
Yeah.
back, way back. Yeah, way back. Mm-hmm.
Lauren, sit.
And you do that so you're into your backswing already?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Into my turn. My right shoulder's in my turn already. I can't pick the club up. I'm too far in my backswing. I can't take the club outside unless I fall flat in my face. But now where else can my club go? Where are my arms? I think I'm going to hit you in my backswing. That's what I actually feel. I'm going to hit all you people in my backswing.
So it seems idiosyncratic. Not too many people do this, where you see the club, when Moe hits a golf ball, that the club is placed, he's tilted, and the club is placed a few inches behind the golf ball. But I want you to understand that address is not the same as impact when it comes to striking a golf ball. In other words, the body position of address is much different rotationally than the body position at impact, and it's a bit tilted differently too. So the question becomes, and I think when you look at how we look at, if you want to look at what great ball striking is, and I think that all of you are watching this channel because you want to get some insight into hitting a golf ball better, that really good ball striking is becoming really good at the moment of impact. Can you become repeatable at that moment? Because if I take a 4-iron like this and I could consistently get to impact in a very consistent way, like this, and the ball will go exactly 200 yards every time when I hit it, so I get very good at knowing my distances and whatnot. So that's what good ball striking is. So we want to become great at impact. Now, the next question you've got to ask in this whole idea of ball striking is, okay, if the goal is to get to impact, right? I want to get the impact correctly. What's the simplest way to go from address to the backswing to impact? Now I want to simplify the backswing, right? That would be the next progression of logic. Okay, I want to be great at the most important moment. So how do I go from the start of the swing and then get to that moment? That's exactly Moe's mind. That's how we thought through this process. So when we talk about from that perspective, if address is a different position than an impact, then how do I start in a position that makes getting to impact easier? This is how Moe answered this question. Moe, why do you place the club behind the ball a few inches? Here's what he said. Because when I place the club back here, it puts me into my backswing. I've eliminated a foot. He's right. He eliminated part of the backswing. He's into his tilt. He's into his rotation. And now he can take the club with less motion back and then bring it down to impact. He's eliminated a huge part of motion. The other thing he said was by doing this, he couldn't take it outside. And what that meant was he immediately goes back onto plane. So he literally could easily go back to the plane. Now, one of the explanations that I love most said about his backswing was what it did for his right shoulder. Because if you put the club next to the ball like this, you can get an open torso, your spine is too upright, and it's, how many of you get frustrated with where do I take the club? Outside, inside, up, down, around. Look, there's so many things that can happen from a conventional standpoint. I struggled with that when I played conventionally. I struggled with figuring out what the heck to do in the backswing. I was confused as heck about what the backswing is, but not Moe. Moe did this. He placed the club back here. It created a nice alignment with his lead arm. He was in a perfect single plane. The shoulder was back into the backswing already, and he simply goes up and down. There's that hammering, non-rotational motion because the shoulder's back. It goes up and down. Watch this. And I'm going to show you one more great thing about putting the club behind the ball. So watch this. Now the club's behind the ball. I'm into my turn. I can go up and down, and I can take this 4-iron and absolutely rip it dead straight on a line with the least amount of motion possible, and then down to impact. Now, here's a really cool thing about when Moe placed the club behind the ball. The other thing that was fascinating to me about this, many of you might do this. You pick a spot out 2 feet in front of the golf ball, right? Your target line. Well, Moe would tell me that when he picked that spot out, that when he placed the club behind the ball, it helped him create an alignment from club to ball to spot. He now had a target line. So it created a 3-spot line. If you just put the club behind the ball, it's hard to make that line up. And what it does, you see how when I create 3 different spots for alignment, club, ball, target line, it then helps me with path. It helps me understand that there's a path there too. He was very visual in using his imagination of how we can get the path of the club correctly. So now he had a way to swing the club back and then through his path. So he was very visual about how the path of the club works. So now, by placing the club behind the ball, you get a lot of benefit of how to achieve a more consistent impact. You've basically eliminated the backswing part of it. You've put the club in a position that it goes back and down with less motion. The shoulder goes up and down. And now you have 3 different spots where you can take the club back and down, and it's easy to create a target alignment. And now it makes it easier to line up the golf club. That's pretty much a summary of why Moe placed the club behind the ball. There's an entire biomechanical explanation as far as why the tilt is better. We'll get into that some other time. But I really think it's a massive advantage to placing the club behind the ball just like Moe.